Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today's news takes us straight to Durban, where the issue of employment in the power sector has once again come under the spotlight. Reports are surfacing that illegal foreigners have gradually taken over many of the available jobs in this sector, raising major concerns among local communities and workers who feel they are being sidelined. Please make sure you listen until the very end to hear the sources of this news so that you can verify it yourself. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now so you never miss important updates like this. Now, the power sector in Durban has long been seen as an industry that could bring opportunities for local South Africans. With the country's ongoing energy struggles, many hope that more jobs would be created for citizens to ease unemployment. But according to the latest developments, it seems that a large number of these opportunities have instead been taken by undocumented foreigners, some of whom are reportedly working under contractors and subcontractors without proper permits. This has created not only tension but also legal questions about how these employment practices have been allowed to continue. Workers' unions in Durban have voiced their concerns, saying that the presence of undocumented workers is not only unfair to locals but also dangerous for the sector. Many of these workers are employed without proper training, qualifications, or safety checks, and in a field as sensitive as power supply, that can pose serious risks. The unions argue that while South Africans are struggling with high unemployment, the system seems to turn a blind eye when companies cut costs by hiring cheap labor from undocumented foreigners. On the other side, there are those who argue that this situation is not as simple as it looks. Some employers say they resort to hiring undocumented foreigners because they accept lower wages and are willing to take on jobs that many South Africans turn down. Others claim that the paperwork delays and costs of hiring locally qualified workers make it easier for them to use undocumented labor. But this explanation has not satisfied the local community, who believe that companies are exploiting loopholes to save money at the expense of citizens. Durban residents living close to some of these power facilities have also expressed frustration. They say young South Africans in their areas are sitting at home without work, while foreigners are being ferried in daily to take on the available jobs. Some have described it as a betrayal, especially when considering that the government has continuously promised to prioritize South African citizens in employment opportunities. Legal experts have also weighed in, noting that South African labor laws are clear when it comes to the employment of foreigners. No one without proper documentation or a valid work permit is supposed to be hired. Yet, enforcement of these laws has been a consistent challenge. This raises questions about how seriously companies and authorities are taking the matter, and whether corruption or negligence is playing a role in allowing this situation to go unchecked. The problem has now sparked calls for stricter inspections and enforcement in the power sector. Activists have pointed out that the use of undocumented labor not only undermines the law but also adds to the chaos of South Africa's already troubled job market. With unemployment remaining one of the highest in the world, the sight of locals being excluded from opportunities while undocumented workers find employment is fueling anger. Some Durban locals have even compared the situation to what has been happening in other industries, such as construction, hospitality, and retail, where undocumented foreigners are also accused of taking jobs meant for citizens. They say the pattern is the same across many sectors, and if government does not step in to regulate properly, locals will continue to be pushed aside. On social media, the debate is also raging. Some South Africans argue that the government has failed its people by not protecting jobs. Others argue that illegal foreigners are simply trying to survive and provide for their families, and that the blame should be placed squarely on companies that exploit cheap labor instead of respecting the law. The conversations are heated, and opinions are deeply divided. From a political perspective, this issue is not going away anytime soon. Opposition parties have been quick to use this as an example of government failure, accusing leaders of being weak on immigration control and careless about protecting jobs. They argue that while South Africans remain unemployed in record numbers, policies are being ignored on the ground, leaving room for undocumented workers to thrive. For the ordinary South African, however, this is not just about politics. It's about putting food on the table, paying bills, and securing a stable future. Many feel that unless stronger steps are taken to regulate the hiring practices in Durban's power sector and beyond, the problem will only get worse. The frustration is real, and the demand for action is growing louder. Now, let's take a step back and think about this practically. Durban, like much of South Africa, has a deep pool of skilled and semi-skilled workers who are eager to be employed. Yet, the system seems tilted in a way that makes it easier for companies to choose undocumented workers. That not only undermines citizens but also damages trust in the fairness of the economy. Unless there's accountability, the issue will likely keep fueling resentment and division among communities. As always, I encourage you to listen carefully, think critically, and verify the news sources at the end of this article. This is a complicated issue that affects everyone differently, and it deserves a fair and balanced look. Before I wrap up, let me just remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We bring you updates on important issues across South Africa, and we want you to be part of the conversation. And just to lighten the mood a bit after such a heavy topic, maybe Durban's power sector should consider hiring some of our local uncles who are always quick to fix a broken plug or connect wires for free. At least then, we'd know the lights might stay on longer. But on a serious note, every South African deserves a fair shot at employment. All images used in this video are for illustration purposes only. The news sources for this report are SABC News, Times Live, IOL, and Daily Maverick.